Hey Alexa, what's the difference between sugar and fruit and a sugary drink?
Thank God. If I had to watch any more of that, I was going to unplug myself.
Yo! What is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftandbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic manner. Today, we are diving into some juicy new research on an so controversial subject in the health community: sugar, and specifically added sugar in the form factor of a sugary beverage, which you can find like literally anywhere, many times at a better price point than water. Yeah. So this study, which just hit the streets, gives us a better glimpse into how our fibrous, sugary, nefarious companion may be setting the stage for some short-term and long-term health woes. Side note, I think I just may have found my new favorite nickname for added sugar. What do you think, production team? They're all hopped up on Mountain Dew.
Chip, I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew.
Knew I shouldn't have let them watch Talladega Nights. Anywho, we're gonna walk through this new data, its primary objectives, the methods, and how the three main types of sugar may be altering liver function. And at the end, I will give you one big reason on why you shouldn't be scared of that evil F word, fructose. And it's a good one, because it's also another F word. Got you thinking. Speaking of F words, let's do a quick recap on the main forms of sugar and why it is a touchy subject in the health community. Sugar and the sugar controversy. There has been a chicken and the egg problem with sugar and health for some time now. The question being, is added sugar specifically responsible for the onset and acceleration of modern diseases such as non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease? Or are other lifestyle and dietary factors making our bodies less capable of handling the modern day sugar load? This is highly debated and probably will be for ever. And the simple answer is, it's most likely a little bit of both. But as we know in biology, and especially in a complex organism like you and me, it ain't that simple. Never was, never will be. You see, when we're talking sugar, we're typically consuming one of three forms, all of which are processed and cleared in the body a little differently. Sucrose, glucose, and fructose are the three amigos in Sugarland, all containing the same amount of calories per gram. Sucrose is the scientific name for table sugar, and it consists of one glucose and one fructose molecule, 50-50 split. And in terms of sweetness, it falls right smack dab in the middle when compared to glucose and fructose. Then we have glucose, which is a simple sugar, meaning it cannot be broken down into any smaller forms. This is the body's preferred energy source, giving it the so prolific nickname, the energy of life. And this is typically the carbohydrates that you find in those non-super sweet foods, in your wheats, in your pastas, in your beans, yada, yada, yada. And lastly, we have the publicly criticized, designated evil one in the family, fructose, at least according to mainstream media. Fructose is fruit sugar, which is a simple sugar just like glucose. This is naturally found in, surprise, surprise, fruit, along with things like honey, agave, and root vegetables. However, it is also commonly refined and added to processed foods in the form of high fructose corn syrup, specifically to make them more appealing, taste better, and secretly give the food a much longer shelf life. As you can imagine, this one is the sweetest of the bunch. Now, all of this is important to know because the scientific community has been trying to whittle out the metabolic dependencies and consequences of these three for years. And that's because although they all occur naturally, they are a top additive in many of the processed foods that are on the market today. Because we all know when it comes to the food manufacturing biz, you ain't cool unless you add the sugar.
You ain't cool unless you pee your pants.
Also, doesn't hurt that it extends the shelf life for a couple of decades. Now, a lot of the present day research suggests that excess fructose is linked to something called de novo lipogenesis, which is when the liver synthesizes new fat. These sugars in excess amounts have also been linked to raising blood triglyceride levels and potential liver insulin resistance. Anything else? Additional data points to excessive energy intake from these free sugars, in particular fructose, as being associated with obesity, metabolic syndrome, and NAFLD. Now, those are some pretty serious claims. And to really understand what may be going on here, you need to have this key piece of background information. And that is the topic of clearance. These sugar molecules all get cleared out of circulation in different ways. For example, glucose can begin getting cleared in healthy individuals once it hits circulation, getting sucked up by tissues such as muscle and getting stored there as glycogen, or stored glucose, for a rainy day. But when it comes to fructose, the majority of that metabolism or clearance happens in the liver. Think of it like a highway versus a local main street. One being open and free-flowing, while the other has a lot of stop signs and lights. Glucose travels on this highway, the bloodstream, and gets off little by little as it passes through the system, while the majority of fructose must all flow into the same town, the liver. Great name for a town. And here, traffic flow or metabolism is at the mercy of local traffic. And when there's a lot of cars or a lot of fructose, things can get backed up. Yep, exactly. An internal metabolic traffic jam. Here's the thing. Just like our muscles, our liver comes with the capacity of being able to store sugar as glycogen. But it has a max limit of somewhere between 100 grams and 120 grams of stored glycogen at any time, depending person to person. Think of this as the town's parking lot. However, when it fills up, all of the excess cars need to be sent to long-term parking via de novo lipogenesis, or the conversion of fructose and glucose into fatty acids that are then exported out of the liver via cholesterol. And where is the end destination? Adipose tissue, or fat cells. Now, is this example extremely oversimplified? No. Yes, it is. But it provides a good foundation of what this research is trying to tease out. If fructose, sucrose, or glucose from non-natural added sources negatively impact lipid metabolism in healthy individuals, independent from an overfeeding situation. We made it. Let's dive in. The objectives. So researchers sought out to see if a 7-week intervention with sugary beverages containing either sucrose, fructose, or glucose, 80 grams a day, affect hepatic fatty acid synthesis, or the production of fat in your liver. This was performed in a group of healthy males who maintained normal caloric intake throughout, meaning whatever group they were in, they weren't consuming more calories than they normally would consume. They were just getting their calories from different sources. And there was also a group that acted as the control, getting no intervention, and they just kind of sat there and chilled out. The cool thing that I liked about this study too is it aimed to observe participants in a normal, everyday lifestyle, not some made up, highly controlled scenario that no person would ever find themselves living in. You gotta play the ball as it lies, right? So, now that we have the goals, let's review the clever structure of the study. The methods. 94 healthy male participants were studied in a double-blind randomized trial. And double-blind randomized studies get the gold star in the scientific community. This is where neither researchers or participants know what intervention each participant got, and helps minimize the probability of a placebo effect. From here, participants were broken up into 4 intervention groups and assigned daily consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages, 80 grams a day in addition to their usual diet. And as noted before, there was also a control group that, just sat there and, smiled. Now, prior to the study, the participants went through a 4-week sweetened beverage abstinence, meaning they had to put on their soda and fruit juice purity rings. Researchers then measured de novo fatty acid and triglyceride synthesis, lipolysis, and plasma-free fatty acid oxidation. the latter two associated with the breakdown and metabolism of the fatty acids. So what happened? The results. First, the daily intake of beverages sweetened with fructose and sucrose increased the secretion of newly synthesized fatty acids in the liver twofold compared to the control group. Interestingly, the same amount of glucose did not change free fatty acid secretion. Next, fructose intake did not increase the rates of peripheral lipolysis. Lipolysis meaning the breakdown of stored fat. And it also did not seem to change fatty acid or plasma free fatty acid oxidation, or the conversion of fat to fuel. Then we have something that I found very interesting. Large buoyant LDL cholesterol particles tended to decrease in size after the 7-week sugary intervention. This decrease was particularly significant in the sucrose group. Similarly, small density LDL particles tended to increase in count, again being significant in the sucrose group. This suggests that in the intervention group with added sucrose, LDL particle size tended to decrease, which are more atherogenic particles and associated with a higher risk for cardiovascular disease. Interesting. So what does this all mean? The researchers concluded that fructose consumed in the form of sugary beverages is a potent stimulator of de novo lipogenesis, stating that their study provides evidence that daily consumed fructose-containing beverages induce profound alterations in liver lipid metabolism, and that pure fructose and sucrose increased fatty acid synthesis comparably. And they added that an increase in liver lipogenic activity may increase one's susceptibility to liver-related diseases and other metabolic conditions. Now, although no notable disease states were noticed or observed over this short 7-week study, and no direct conclusions can be made, researchers did have a hypothesis, stating, "We hypothesize that the switch in liver metabolism by fructose intake may pave the way for further changes affecting metabolic health." It's a real doozy of a hypothesis if you ask me. Alright, so if you ask me what my odd, weird, and highly sarcastic take on this research is, I think it's pretty much a confirmation of something that we already knew. Processed sugary drinks are not optimal for biological business. And the fact that this was observed in healthy individuals without an increase in caloric intake supports the notion that this thing called health, getting healthy and staying healthy from the inside out, is much more than calories in versus calories out. And don't worry, I remember, before we depart, I'm going to fulfill my promise to you and remind you not to freak out.
We can't have anyone freak out there, okay? We've got to keep our composure.
Listen, fructose isn't evil. Just like anything else, it's all about the context. How are you consuming your sugars? For many, it's in the form of processed foods and sugary drinks. And in that context, as you can see from research like this, it doesn't paint a pretty picture. But if you are consuming your sugar in the form of real whole foods, it's a whole different ballgame. Why? Because real whole foods come equipped with a slow release feature, aka fiber, drastically slowing down the release of these molecules into your system and giving your liver adequate time to absorb and process the food. This is the exact opposite of what happens when you drink a can of soda. Thus, you do not have to banish sugar and fructose. Just consume it in the right context. And if you focus on that and build other sustainable, healthy lifestyle habits, you won't end up like the production team, who are passed out on the floor right now as a byproduct of the Mountain Dew fiasco. As always, let me know what comments, questions, any random thoughts you have down below. Yo, guys, let's wake up. Come on. You want a cookie? I gotta deal with this.